Welcome to part 2 of day 9's recap of Karen Read's trial. Let's get this thing wrapped up, shall we? Never in my life did I think that I would need a part 2 for a recap, but there were 6 witnesses today, so cut me some slack. Hi, my name is Sydney Rushing. I'm a criminal defense attorney in the state of Michigan, and if you haven't watched part 1, go watch that first and then come back here. So now let's talk about it. The last witness of the day was witness number 18, which was Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, who is a retired Kenton Police Department lieutenant. He was in charge of preserving the crime scene, and his methods were beyond questionable. He preserved blood from the scene with red Solo cups. When he got the call, he was at his house, he grabbed a tent, got in his personal vehicle, went to the police station, grabbed a reflective winter-sized coat and got some winter clothing, and didn't grab an evidence collection kit or anything, and just made his way down to the scene. He said the weather was terrible and blizzard-like. He said at the time there was no reason to start a criminal investigation, but of course they had to process the scene. They weren't able to use that tent or crime tape because of the winds being so high. He said that there was 4 inches of snow at this point, and then he said the unimaginable. Do y'all know that this man used a leaf blower to try and collect blood evidence? A leaf blower. Literally. Supposedly it's super windy outside and he needs a leaf blower to blow off some more of the snow. In Canton, they obviously have top detective stuff. We've got red Solo cups, we've got a leaf blower, and then we're using the stop and go bags because, you know, they're pretty much the same as evidence bags. Yikes. We then got to watch a video of this unorthodox message and oh my God. It's just beyond me. While he was using this little snow blower, he had located a broken cocktail glass, which, you know, is a pretty decent size. I don't know how he would have saw that without using the snow blower, you know, dusting the snow off. And in court, he was handed a box that had red tape all over it. He put on gloves and scissors, and he was to open up this evidence box. And he pulled out the broken glass. He said he returned to the house later in the day because Jen called him back because she had more rehearsed info to tell him. He said the department had to recuse themselves from the investigation because one of their best, if not the best, detective is Kevin Albert, which is the brother of Brian Albert, whose house this happened at. And they didn't want there to be any perceived bias, which I hate to tell him, but it's clearly there. He also said Karen's SUV was at the Sallyport. Jackson did the cross-examination. He asked about him being interviewed for the first time 2.5 years later. Crazy, right? Gallagher said that he also knew that Proctor was an investigator in the case. Now, this man using a leaf blower, collecting evidence, doing all that thing, do y'all know that he did not write a report? When asked why, he said he had ordered people to do it essentially for him. But someone who's touching these things, moving these things, doing the actual physical work of this, he did not write a report. That is insane. Gallagher never saw where John's body actually was. He just heard it through an officer who heard it through another officer who didn't obviously see it either. Hearsay on hearsay, you know what I mean? When he asked about putting the blood in the red Solo cup, he said that DNA is pretty hardy and forensically stable. He was asked if somebody else's DNA got in it, to which he replied, "That would benefit you." And Jackson said, "Depends." And that's true. It does depend. Because if there was a second DNA in there with it, right, there would be more to it, which show that there's another suspect. Unless that person was a Canton police officer, then of course we know they would not be a suspect in any shape or form. Jackson got Gallagher to agree that there's a reason that the police department pays more for evidence bags specifically, instead of just going on down to the Stop and Shop and grabbing several of their bags to use as evidence bags. And that's obviously because they're not the same. Gallagher also said that that bag was not forensically sealed. And something that truly shocked me is he testified that there was no evidence log. Testified about how the evidence room is very secure and like only 2 people can go in there and things like that. But how do you not have an evidence log? You know, signing it in, signing it out, who's touching it, who's taking it where, all of these things. Because obviously it was sealed at this point, but that seal had been broken before during the first trial. I'm really just truly like, how are you showing chain of custody here? Because none of these officers can remember shit about shit on the day of the incident. None of them can. So how are you telling me that you remember all these things? Why don't you have an evidence log? That's like Police Academy 101. And questioning was stopped and the jurors were let go for the day. And they were probably so glad because that was a lot of information and testimony to take in one day. 6 witnesses is a lot. Gallagher's cross-examination will continue tomorrow morning. So now that includes the full update and recap of what happened on day 9 of Karen Read's trial. Thanks for following along, and I'm hoping that tomorrow's recap will be a little bit shorter, but I can make no promises. Question of the day is, of the witnesses you've heard so far, who do you think is the most trustworthy witness? Whose testimony can we actually believe? I know who I'm picking. Let me know in the comments.